remember what the intro is. And right, we're live. There we go. Right. Hello and welcome to Unity 151. My name is Joe. On the channel, I do weekly reviews of sci-fi, major sci-fi, and space opera. I do a weekly live writing journey video where a few of us talk about what we are learning as inspiring writers. Funny enough, usually these two, but sometimes we have other guests come on as well. Today we are doing a live review of this here book. Oh, there it is. The Lost Fleet, book 3. And we're going to spoil it. This is spoilers, because if you're this far in, you're looking for spoilers. If you're not, then sorry. Please comment, like it. Please like. Likes help. Believe it or not, the algorithm, because YouTube hates us. As well as, yeah, that's it, really. Right, well, we're going to talk about the thing now. I'm going to get rid of my little script thing that I was reading. I've done my thing. Ramsey and then Karl, you guys can fight over who talks next.
Go ahead, Karl, and then I'll do the summary after I introduce myself.
Sounds good. Karl with Geek on my sleeve. My brother and I run the channel. We like to just geek out on books every Sunday, kind of trying to figure out the direction we're going to go for 2021, but probably going to keep it around the same time. And yeah, everything from lit RPG, fantasy, sci-fi, though if Pete had his way, we would just do lit RPG all the time. But there's just too many good books, and I've been enjoying rereading The Lost Fleet with you guys so far. So yeah. You're up, Ramsey.
It's been a really fun series. I'm excited to keep going with it. My name is Ramsey. I'm with the Rajathon YouTube channel. Even I struggle saying it. Kind of started this, threw it out there, and you guys were like, yeah, I'll read it with you. And this turned into a pretty fun little thing. We've had some people join us that I think are liking it pretty well. I know our buddy Rowdy Bob does not like the dialogue. But I tend to agree with him. I can see where it's a little bit flat, but I do enjoy the overall story.
Yeah.
I like it quite a bit. This, for me, was the weakest of the three. It was so weak that we were all kind of going, well, we read this at the beginning of the month. So I'll go through the summary real quick. Third book, it says in this summary nonstop action, but it was kind of slow in the beginning. We kind of have Rion back away from Geary right at the beginning. And then she basically is gone for a while. They go into this new system and realize, hey, we don't have enough materials. So they've been fighting in a different style than normally. Instead of just coming in and butting heads with one another, he used like maneuvering and shooting more missiles and not losing ships. So they don't have the fuel cells and the physical missiles, and they actually use like just big pieces of metal and they just throw big pieces of metal at stuff.
Grapes.
Yeah, they're grape shot. And so they were out of that as well. And then we go through. Not far into the book, we get a captain we haven't really met before. He kind of steps up. I think his name starts with a B. It's not listed here. He steps up and he says, hey, Captain Geary, we're willing to let you become basically the dictator of the Alliance if you want. This is what we'll do if you're willing to do that. And so they go by a black hole, which is actually a fun part of the book for me, where it's kind of like they feel like it's going to, if they look at the black hole, it's going to draw them in. Yeah. And they think that they're going to just get sucked into the black hole, kind of like a ghost, I would assume. And so they go through 3 systems, and then he just feels really, really trapped. So he has no idea where to go. He actually goes and talks to, if you remember from last book, Captain Falco, and he's like, hey, let's... whatever he says to do, I'll just do the opposite, because he couldn't figure out what he needed to do. And he ends up actually doing what Falco says. He goes to a world that has a hypernet gate. And when they get there, things seem to be going pretty well. They get some materials like they need. And then all of a sudden the Armada shows up through the hypernet gate. But as they're fighting to get back to the system they just left, they're intercepting some communications back and forth that basically says the Armada never meant to come here. So we're thinking that somehow they were pulled by another force aliens that and put in the system to get rid of the Alliance, because the Alliance ships are kind of figuring some stuff out they shouldn't be figuring out. And so they shoot back to the system they were just in, take heavy damages, lose some ships. I think we end up losing about 10 ships through the whole set of this battle, and then they immediately turn around and come back to try to get their people back, hoping that they'll throw off the pursuit and they won't know where they were. So that's kind of where we are as a summary. What did you guys think of the book?
Overall, it was the weakest one. Just nothing happened. There's like, the first one was really good build up. Then you go into the second one, action, fight. That's what you're reading this for. What I mean? All goes on, everything's amazing. Right, third book, just flat, just lots of nothing happened, lots of traveling. Again, they're building up. They've got to build up. There's only so much action you can do without having build up when we get that. But when you have such a good high of like the second book and the third one sort of like, and not a lot happens. Apart from that, when it sort of kicked off the last quarter, really, the last quarter of it, maybe the last third, mostly the quarter, that's when it really sort of kicks off.
Mm-hmm.
The way, because they went into the system, because they're being chased by another fleet. It's a small fleet, but they're getting kind of chased. They go in there, they then attack. I think there's two fleets in there. No, there's one fleet by the
there's a flotilla of like 3 to 5 ships.
There's one by the gate, and then I think there's another fleet. I think there's 2 fleets, because he kind of messes around with one fleet while the other one's still at the gate.
Yeah.
He has a battle with them. They then run. He then is either heading to the gate or they didn't know what to do. Then the Armada, the bigger flotilla, turned up, because I think, didn't it? And then they sort of come onto him. And as they was leaving, that other fleet, I think then the other fleet followed in behind. There was 4 of them or something that. I can't remember.
Was the one, so that when the system they were in, they had a ship that was like tailing them and just seeing where they went, so that they could relay back and forth. And then they came in, and there was like 5 ships over by the hypernet gate that were just sitting there waiting. And then there was another
there was another group in it, because that's the first battle they have with them.
So they called them like Flotilla A and Flotilla B, I think. And so when they had a fight with Flotilla B, because they were moving around, that one ship kind of gets injured and comes off to the side.
Yep.
And then the captain that's been like, no, let's just kill everybody, she went over and
sacrificed herself.
Yeah, got both of them killed.
There's 3 of them, 3 ships or 2 ships went with her, weren't it? It was her and 2 others, was it?
No, it was just. It was.
Was she saving?
The one that got injured, they were like, "There's nothing we can do. We can't save her." And she's like, "No, I'm going anyway."
Yeah, that's it.
And they both died. And then, so they were worried that they were going to get caught in a pincher position, because the new flotilla comes in. And so you've got the one that was in the system they were in. They're going to be coming through the jump point. You've got the one they've been fighting. So, they're like, you can't see somewhere in here. Like, I can't, but so they're in between the 2, and then there's the big flotilla that's coming at them too. So they're like trapped on all sides, and luckily make it out of the system by the end of the book, and then shoot back in again, which is probably a good call, because if the big flotilla comes after them, they'll get in there and they'll go, "Oh, where are they? I don't know. I don't know where they are."
For guessing for the next book, the way it ended, I can't see any other way of them surviving. Unless something really crazy happens. It must be that they obviously turn around and go back in. The flotilla, all of them lot must have gone through, and they're going to come out and it's going to be like derelict. No one's going to be there or something, so they can make a run. Because they're not going to make it to the gate, obviously, unless they go to the gate and then get transported somewhere else, which you never know. But
the whole time they were shooting across the system, I thought, just shoot something at them. I felt like those ships over by the hypernet gate I felt like they were empty, because they kept saying that they were having to use fresher and fresher recruits. What if those ships are just empty and they were a decoy, like that cop car you see over by the stop sign that the hat doesn't have a cop in it, but it makes you slow down.
Yeah, possibly. I will have a tin hat, still put the old tin hats on.
I'm with you guys. Everything you've already said about it. This book definitely lagged a bit for me, and I believe comments were made in the Discord group that first time I went through, I just binged them all together. So like it kind of just meshes
it's one big
together.
book.
And this one is a little bit more of a lull in comparison to the first two, but we're kind of at the halfway point for the first part of the series, right? And when Ramsey brought it up in the description, I had a laugh out loud moment when they were talking about the projections and everybody being so short on their supplies simply because they were not anticipating having Jack Black leading the fleet and not losing as many ships and maneuvering around and everything.
Well, they're using more weapons and not dying as ships, so they're even firing even more. So then, and because the ships are moving, not just crashing in, they're using more power cells and
exactly. So
I like that because that does make sense, you know.
And then he had his first big loss in this book, right? So it's kind of like, hey, here he is, can do no wrong. And then we have our first major loss where what else could he do? Right. Yeah. And then with the quote unquote potential for aliens as they're going through and reasoning about the fact, what was it? The intelligence group found out through the comm chatter that they didn't anticipate being there.
They were aiming for someone else.
Yeah, they're going somewhere else entirely.
Yeah, so for me, I understand why Blackjack decided to go back and avenge all the lost ships, but kind of just after having that revelation, we then rely on being able. Well, I guess we didn't use the hypergate for that, right? They just jumped. It's the hypergates we're worried about aliens messing with. So, okay. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting because I do believe that he's going to jump back. He's going to go back. All of the rest of them are following, thinking he's doing a runner. They don't expect him to double back. I've got a feeling he's going to turn up and it'll be like a ghost town. Maybe them ships are still over there because they're still quite far away. It'd just be them. And he's got then a chance. It's going to be interesting. Like, what's he going to do? Is he going to run to jump elsewhere, which I think were all dead ends anyway, or close to? Or is he going to go for the hypernet gate, go make it in there, then get sent somewhere else by the aliens? They're leading to aliens. We know they're leading to aliens. We can't fool ourselves.
But like if you go, like, why in his unless he's, it kind of reminded me of like Remember the Titans, where like if you lose any battles, you'll be kicked out, and it was kind of that idea where. If Blackjack messes up, we're just gonna vote him out. Kind of the way. I was getting pretty frustrated with the back and forth. Always somebody giving him crap in the meeting.
Yeah, they keep going on and on.
He's done everything he needs to do to become like at
credible.
This point, why would you not trust him? Like,
right.
No one else does a better job.
Yeah, and so the way that they used to do stuff is not the way that works anymore. Hey, ready, Bob? So I just, and Rowdy Bob's the one that brought it up in the Discord. I mean, it is very frustrating when the dialogue just runs in circles on the continual. Okay, what's like? Can we just find something else to be mad about for a minute?
Pick a new grievance, pick a new battle. Like, we've hashed this out, new face, same problem.
Well, that's it, really. Like those two people, I can't remember the names. Ramsey does. They had to go because of Falco. They got arrested. Yeah. They had to go, and then these two people popped up, which basically replaced them. In the story, they justified why, because they was overshadowed, so it was quiet, blah blah blah. But it was just like shoehorned in. It's like, boom, there you go. This is a replacement just to give him jip. It's kind of like, why, and then there's kind of like, the other lot are still controlling them, giving them whatever, like stuff to say, and it's kind of like that was a bit sort of like, right, we've had this for 2 books, now 3 books.
So I've read this series, the following series, and a handful of other Jack Campbell series, and he does get better. Keep in mind, like, this is still pretty early on in his writing career, and as being aspiring published authors ourselves, like, it's a learning process. And I agree with the points on the dialogue for this book, but reflecting back, and it's been a minute since I've read some of his other ones, he has a really interesting series that kind of meshes like mechanics slash magic, like steampunk era series, and the dialogue there is definitely better than here. And yeah, we're kind of locked in on Jack Black as our point of reference, right? As we follow his story throughout the fleet.
Yeah.
What
did you guys think of, like, through book 1 and book 2, it felt like no matter what he did, there was nothing he could do wrong. I do feel like this book finally got to the point where you felt like he could fail. You felt like he could maybe limp back with 3 ships, just the way that they were trapped. And like, I had the feeling that at the end of book 2, we were getting to a point where the fleets were about equal. But now, like, they had so many ships in the system that it felt like he was like 2-1 overwhelmed. And if, like, how many ships did we actually lose in that initial skirmish in the Syndic homeworld, that like we're so far, well, I'm not part of the Alliance, but that the Alliance is so far behind on amount of ships that they have.
He's a Syndic man, isn't he?
But like, I just like what are the numbers? Because I feel like there's, like, at the end of this book, I'm really worried that the fleet is just about to be done. Like,
I think they've talked about that a little bit early in the book. I don't remember, but
they don't say the official numbers, do
it
they?
insinuates, like, for every ship they have now, they lost 1. Like, they lost half of their fleet in the trap. And I thought they said at one point, like, even with all the victories, massive one-sided victories they've had, they still haven't evened the playing field. And like, we're starting to run into the challenges of shortages in regards to weapons, fuel cells, everything else. But
they're way low on food. They're eating like 100-year-old ration bars.
But not only that, another thing we learned early on in the series is they haven't had to retire ships, right? Because they get destroyed beforehand. So our problems are probably just starting in regards to supply issues, because, like, how long before we have other issues of things breaking down, other issues of, you know, all these other problems, parts that you can't replace, like the Titan and Jin, all that.
I was going to say, when they start breaking, breaking.
Or we lose one of them. And I'm with you, Ramsey. Like, we're finally starting to see that maybe our hero Blackjack isn't really going to be able to pull us out of this, and that's probably what Jack Campbell was trying to get across in this series. Because I know that we've talked about it on Geek on My Sleeve, where we get really frustrated with main character immunity, right? Like, they can do no wrong, they can't get hurt, and you kind of feel like that's here, but there's still that core cast, that core group of people, and it makes you wonder, like, what about, was it Devos and, you know, like some of his other
Dulios,
what's going to happen to them?
I can't quite get in the camera right.
It's all good. And then another big kind of like part of the plot for this one was just Madam President Rion discovered that her husband was alive, right? And just kind of their romance plot was interesting. They had the "I'm going to avoid you," then had "I come clean," and then drunk. off again. I guess we're just going to make the most of this, sort of a deal.
I get it, but I don't get it. Like, okay, so you're married and you think your spouse dies 10 years ago. So you finally move on and you start a relationship with somebody else. And then, like, within a week of starting a relationship with someone else, you find out that your husband may not be dead. I could get it. Like, you waited that long. And then if you'd have waited another week.
Bad timing.
Yeah. But, like, she handled it so poorly. Like, I don't know. I mean, she mentioned to him that she still loved her husband. So it's not like
kind of like what he said there. She's a bit immature with some ways.
Yeah.
I do get that. She's very serious when it comes to the alliance and trying to do tactics, and she does come up with some interesting outside of the box ideas. But when it actually comes down to her dealing with a person, like in more, when it's like serious political stuff, she's really good because she can like obviously mask how she really is. When she's showing her real self, she crumbles in a way. But then it's got to be hard, the thing that you've got to try and remember is the society's different, and we are basing it on us. That's the one thing, you know what I mean? Like everything's run differently, and the life expectancy of people is different as well.
Sure. And just throwing out the elephant in the room, I've heard it before, and I know that in my own writings, I really have to shift my perspective that we do have a male author writing a romance subplot of a female point of view. I know from my personal reading experience that different authors do things differently for one, but then when you break it down on their life experience and their gender, completely different in regards to how they write it.
Yeah, I've actually read some books. Ken Follett is really bad about it, where he writes the female perspective, and it's like a man thinking about romance, and it's like that's how I would approach a romantic situation. It's just like, which is definitely tough. Like you almost have to like let someone read it and be like, would a woman actually say this or do this?
Beta readers, and I know when I try to get to a scene that's not really my wheelhouse, I have to go and look for other references, right? Like if I ever tried to really write a romance subplot from a female's point of view in one of my stories, I would have to get some serious source material because, like you said, Ramsey, we have our perspective on things, and then trying to fill in those other perspectives, it's a challenge. But I did appreciate the fact that the romance subplot was not as big a part of this story as as book 2.
True.
We kind of got back to the action, the main storyline, trying to survive.
I'd love to see in the next book like some of the sub crews. What do they have of the battleship divisions? I'd love to see them just hold on, I'm in the middle of something.
Children, you gotta love them.
I love you. I'd love to see them kind of get their own. Somebody was saying in the chat that he's kind of letting them do their thing. I guess I don't know how to describe that correctly, but kind of there we go. He's delegating. That's perfect. That's exactly what I meant.
He has gotten better. Like the book 2, he did well with that, and he even made a point of saying how he needs to let them do it, but he's still very hands-on.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry, go.
I just feel like that's a trust thing. I think he has to realize that these people are not going to just bum rush in, and you can see it like the change in Destjani from book 1 to
she's
book 3.
Had the most development.
She's the character that's actually developed as a character the most out of everybody.
But then that's the one thing. Like the story itself hasn't taken. You're talking just months. Is it like a month a book? You're not.
I think sometimes not even.
No, that's what I mean.
First one, not even a month.
No, so you're not going to get loads of development if you think about. You're talking a short period of time with a lot happening, but then there's a lot of not happening because the travel. It takes weeks to travel. You're not going to get mass changes in people because they might learn new stuff and open their eyes to new ways, but they're not going to have life-changing experiences. Oh my god!
Well, but that was going to be my counterpoint to your comment there. In a way, like they are in a war, but they are also having some life alternate experiences. Like even though they're used to incredible losses, that turnaround with the Syndic, where all the leading staff gets executed or executed. There's
Yeah.
some speculation.
That's the up. Yes, yes.
You know, we think we have good deep fake now. Go ahead a couple thousand years. But yeah, and then yeah, you're right. Not a whole lot as far as like physical time goes, but they have had a lot of major life events in a way. Finally getting a hold of the records from the Syndic camps. Dajani did get reunited with her long lost love and then realized that he's still a jerk. And yeah, Blackjack coming back and all that fun stuff.
Another thing is where a couple of the captains offered up him to be kind of basically a dictator, didn't they? They said, like, just go for it, go. Which, go for it. I think they should. I'm all in favour of a good dictator. As long as he looks to the future in a positive way.
You've been hoping for a dictator the whole time.
I was about to say.
Well, you know, it's just total war. No, it's total war's bad. Yeah, that was interesting because in a way, he could, in theory, if they survive and get there, which I am guessing, he could make a difference. Like, obviously, I presume something else is going to happen. They're going to do something alien's going to happen. They're going to have to join together to fight the alien, something like that. But say he jumped in the gate, next thing, boom, rest of the fleet turns up. He's now got the key to get to the Syndics. Syndics are a bit of a shit state. He could, in theory, take over. People follow him, especially if he turns up with a fleet. Like, everyone else is panting to be dropping. Oh my god, Blackjack's back. Like, fleet's alive. You know,
the legend we grew up with.
Yeah, like he really could just like take over, go do the, you know, just if he had every ship and he can coordinate because this does that, tack here, that draws Syndics, boom, they go do a strike over there. A few good serious strikes could change, and then then he could just wash his hands and go to that planet he keeps talking about.
That's how it always starts, right? With best intentions. Daddy knows best. Sit down, kids. Let me show you how it is. And then just never gives away the reins of power.
So something I thought about was what is actually going on. Like, they have no information about, they send the fleet off on this mission. They have no idea what's going on, where the fleet is. Could you imagine, like, being in the Alliance worlds, just going, well, we have no idea. Like,
and it's fake propaganda.
Yeah, I was about to say the Syndic's propaganda. Who knows what kind of terrible decisions they're making with the lack of information.
We killed all of your people. Just wait to die.
But the other thing is, the Alliance is probably saying it was a great victory. They're surrendering soon. Like they're probably both just spouting lies out. And the people are like, so basically, nothing's changed. The war's still going. They're all lying to us.
Well, let's be honest. When you're talking about multi-planet, interstellar, like war, the average Joe really doesn't care, right? Like, what's going to change for them? They're still paying their taxes. They're still sending supplies to the government. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm sure a lot of the crew would be about that as well. And she even speculates that the was it like the Rift Federation and the Calyx Republic or something like that. She says that she's not even sure if she could pull her support anymore because they're that much of a believer of Blackjack. And even his losses, by his perspective, are still great victories.
See, that's something I want to touch on. Even though he technically lost and had to run, he still inflicted so much damage. He did serious damage to all of the flotillas before they merged at the end of all that stuff. So it's not like he got smashed, he had to retreat, we're all dying. He's outnumbered and still done damage. So it's not even like a complete whitewash. It's like, I've done damage, but we're outnumbered.
But every time he doesn't go full bore, every one of those captains goes, well, why didn't we do a kamikaze mission? Like, we could have kamikazed. Why didn't we do that? because I'm trying to keep you alive. That doesn't sound like a good plan.
Live?
Right,
We don't want to be
right.
alive. It's for honor.
Fighting spirit.
Yeah. Whoa.
Charge.
Well, that's
We're not
another
afraid.
point. Like, why are there so many dumb captains? And because, like, for some reason they all want to be on the not battleships. The not battleship. What are they called? Battle cruisers. They all want to be on battle cruisers because they're the quickest. Get there first. So all the smart ones die, and that's why all the other lot get put on the big heavy monster, all the battleships.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, I kind of felt like he put that in to justify why they're so daft. He may have planned it, which it would make sense. But in another way, it kind of like that would have been handy in book 1.
But he didn't have the revelation. Right?
Yeah, or maybe book 2 then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
Because it took till book 3 for him to justify why there's all these pain in the ass captains everywhere.
Weren't you saying, Karl, that some beta readers kind of told him, this doesn't really make sense, and he's kind of tried to retroactively write
that's what I feel.
Better, more cohesive story?
Yeah. In the audiobooks, he makes some comments. It was more so in regards to the combat from what I remember, but he does have beta readers. So that might be why we see some of the pivots as the story progresses. But I think it was book 2. He has a little blurb where he talks about the beta readers and trying to add more of the combat dynamics and explaining like the light speed stuff, which I think we talked about on a previous stream.
Yeah.
We appreciated kind of some of the hard science elements of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he said they wanted to see more of the ships actual battling because he talks about them doing stuff. But then I think you said they wanted a bit more detail of the ships actually fighting when they're going past grape shot on each other. And
I definitely would want to see more of that. But yeah, because they're all going so fast, there's not much of the actual combat.
But he does well though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's his strongest point. You could tell that he had a Navy background, probably.
He does.
Like
communications,
how a ship would be positioned, how military officers interact with one another, that kind of thing. I think he understands that very well. And then his hard part is dialogue and just finding a way to create conflict that is not the same thing over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Should we go on to predictions of next book and then we'll wrap this up? Because I know Ramsey has got to do some stuff and we don't want to go too late for him because you promised your children.
45 minutes will be fine.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, I don't want to like keep from your children. I'm kind of.
It's New Year's Day. They'll live.
Happy New Year's to everybody.
Yeah. Do you know what? I slept. I was asleep all for it. I did. Well, the kids get up at 6. Yeah, so and the dogs they don't like the fireworks, so we had to go to bed, let them go on to bed. Hopefully they would then sleep, and it's just I just wanted to sleep anyway. I'm too old.
My oldest, he was like 12:05. He was like, "Okay, now come tuck me in."
Tuck me into the new year. Woo.
Yeah, it's over. Yep.
I did a meme, and I think went over everyone's head on Instagram. I was like, I did 2021, as in like you won the fight. So we're in 2021 now, as in 2021 beaters. Just people were like, yeah, Happy New Year's. I'm like, oh, people just didn't get my meme. They were commenting like, Happy New Year's. Woo. I'm like, oh no, that's not what I meant.
Yeah. So right, I'm going to go ahead and not do any predictions since
you're exempt.
I've finished this series a couple times.
How about you make up a good story and lie? That's what we're gonna do.
There we go. Yeah.
Well, I haven't even read the blurb of this one. So the next one's Valiant, I believe, which is.
Yeah, I like those covers a lot.
Yeah, yours are way better than mine. Like I talked about in my wrap up.
Some better covers.
These are newer ones. These are new ones, I think.
These ones. Like Geary never has a gun. Like he doesn't get down on the ground and fight. Like
or armor or like land anywhere.
He's not a marine. Like
yeah.
Ramsey, what do you reckon? I'm gonna read the blurb. Actually, I'm not gonna read.
All right, so I'm thinking something's going to happen and force them into the hypernet gate next time. Geary's not going to want to do it, and he's going to be forced into it. I think he's going to get back there, and something. Either the overwhelming numbers, I'm hoping they pick up a bunch of survivors, because I hate the idea of people being in a forced labor camp.
Yeah.
Like I'd love if we could rescue some people in the next book or two, and then they'll be forced in to the Senate gate, but they're not going to go where they're intending to go. They're going to send them like edge of the frontier, at the alien border on the end of the Senate line. And then, they'll have to figure out a way to get back from there or something. But, and then if I had to guess, if we do find prisoners, we find Rion's husband, and then it just makes everything more complicated.
That would definitely spice things up.
And, if I was writing it, I would write it that we find him, and he's been with a woman for 8 years. She's like, fine, no big deal. I'll stay with Geary.
Geary's like, oh, you'll stay with me now. Oh.
Yeah.
Do I just read the blurb, and it doesn't tell you anything.
Oh,
absolutely
it doesn't. I haven't read it yet.
It's a terrible. You have a read of it. It's not a good blurb. It's basically it's just tell us about what happened and what could possibly happen, as in issues. That's it. It's we kind of know. Something else I was going to say, which is a bit annoying about this one, is where there's a lot of school, bickering of rumors of Rian and him, and then there's him and Des Jones or whatever her name is. The Dauntless Captain. There's so much of that whispers going around, and he says this, that says that. It is very you know what I mean, a bit very kiddie. That's something I did notice.
Mine says, as he struggles to stay one step ahead of the enemy, Geary must face conspirators within his own fleet, an unknown number of officers who want a change of command. Geary knows the fleet must stand, or the cynics will tear them apart. So
mine don't say that.
More drama in the boardroom.
Yeah, mine basically says that, but just a bit longer, but just worded different.
Yeah.
What do I think? Well, what I think. I think somehow he obviously goes back. I think there's no one there, because there can't be anyone there who will get beaten. So they've got to be able to go through, and he's got a clear run to either the gate, or he does another loop and does something else. Because the last book, he knew that he can jump further than what they thought. So maybe he pulls that again and jumps somewhere that they don't think you can jump to, maybe. There's only two options. They go to the gate or jump somewhere.
Well, if he was going to do that, he'd already done it. Because
he couldn't make it, could he? Because he said if he tried getting there to slow down because of the mind or go there, the other lot would attack him. So he couldn't get to that gate he wanted to get to. So maybe he might be able to get to that gate now. Because everyone else has followed him, he can just run to that gate and then go to whatever he was predicting to go through anyway. Mm-hmm. And then maybe go somewhere else. Well, obviously he's going to go somewhere. We've got 3 more books.
I don't see any way that he doesn't take that hypernet gate. He just...
Well, he'll be between a rock and a hard place if it's an option, right? Because there's only a select number of people that know about the potential alien / origin of the gates.
Yes.
And that's a couple people that Keseda confided to and was able to help maneuver that in the fleet conference. But if it's an option, he either has to take it and potentially get sent somewhere else and then has to reveal it to everyone else, or he has to reveal to everyone else that there might be aliens and that there's a way to self-destruct these gates and start Armageddon or whatever, suicide mission, just take out huge chunks of humanity.
How do you think this is going to end, Ramsey? What do you reckon? You can't. Don't even bother looking at us. Your smiles give it away. What do you reckon?
My guess would be that he gets home, but I mean,
there is a second series.
Well, this is what I think. I feel like they either it ends in a stale. There's no way this cripples. I mean, it could cripples the syndics into surrender, because I feel like they're too stubborn, and we're too deep into this series to actually be combating the aliens. They may turn up second to last book, have a bit of freeway squabble, and they have to join forces to fight the aliens. Then it ends. Then the next series, which is Beyond the Frontier, I think, is where they then start dealing with the aliens, maybe. But I feel like it kind of they must come to some sort of truce at the end. You know what I mean?
Well, Geary's been kind of pointing to the fact that he wants this war to end.
Yeah.
You know, and he, like, if he could find a way to say, you know, what the initial part of the conflict was, and just, you know, find the initial, like, probably the aliens attacked them and they thought it was us. So when we thought they were sneak attacking us, they were retaliating for something they thought we did.
He's also been doing a bit of the psychological warfare too, right?
Yes,
like
which I
picking
like
up Syndics, planting the seed, trying to treat them better than their own government does, and just like any opportunity he can, they're spreading some of that psychological their own propaganda. Be like, hey, we don't want to fight this. Like, we have no interest in this. Like, whatever your government's telling you, you know better.
And he only attacks military and government places as well. He doesn't touch the civilians.
Yeah.
He lets them know that if they say, like, if you do anything, we will attack the government, all that stuff, but you give you a chance, you don't have to. They obviously always do. So then he's like, well, this is because of them. Blah, blah. I like all that. It's good. It adds layers. Stuff, the whole combat and the whole fighting and the political stuff, bar the silliness, the rumors and all that bickering, the actual, like, the story that's going on and how he's, you know, what he's doing to control and change the fleet. I do like all of that, and how the fleet's evolving and how he's doing propaganda and showing a decent way of doing propaganda. Instead of blowing the planet up and just being what the enemy say you are, prove you're not. Because if he keeps doing it to every single planet he meets, in the end, it's going to get out. As much as you can only control so much. If people traveling from different planets and everyone's saying the same thing, they didn't kill us. Right. Be like, oh wow, you're the third planet said they didn't kill you. You know what I mean? Like, it will spread, and I do feel that's where that's going as well.
But that's not a year-long tactic. That's a 25-year-long tactic.
That's a long. Yes, it is. But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
It comes back to his character, which I've talked about before. In a lot of ways, he's a good leadership example by sticking to his values and leading by example and
teaching.
Yeah.
Karl, I need to ask you a question. You'll notice, right? The Syndics, are they as big as the Alliance?
It's been a minute since I've gone through the whole series, but that's how I interpreted it. Like, as far as size and space and territory and power goes, it's kind of like a 50-50 split on the known world, and as they've kind of surmised, at the other end of Syndic space is suspected aliens.
Yeah, no, I remember all that. I couldn't remember, because how many different alliances are in the Alliance? Because we know there's the Alliance, which is what Blackjack's part of, but then you've got the two other one, which is Rion's president for.
Yeah, kind of like what I remember of it is, like, the Alliance is primarily all one body, and then maybe there's like some other bodies of government that try to be independent, but they're still part of the Alliance. Okay. Yeah.
It's not very clear. 3 books in, you don't really, know nothing about both sides.
Yeah.
They definitely make it kind of a situation where it's like, I guess World War II, where you had Axis and the Allies.
Yeah.
You had the countries that were like, well, we don't want to be with the Axis powers, but, you know, we don't really want to support you either. So we're just, you know, kind of hang out with the people that are not so bad.
Yeah, exactly. Lesser evil. Don't want to be owned as property, so I guess we'll just pay a huge amount of taxes and resources and lives to fight on this side over here. Yeah.
What's good is that it doesn't. They haven't made out that the Alliance is amazing. They've shown that there's faults with the Alliance. Well, what little you know, and like they do their own propaganda and they lie and blah blah blah. And it's good to show that, like, obviously the Cynics are the baddies, but then it seems like they're actually pushed against a wall because of these aliens, and they're only doing. Obviously, they are bad because of the way they run it all, but they're they could be being manipulated or something, and then the Alliance, which is not being manipulated as far as we know, they're still they're obviously they are better, but they're still not greener grass. It's still quite bad their own way, kind of real. Nothing's really perfect.
Well, you imagine politics after 100 years of war. It basically is like, here's the next thing that we are going to push on you guys, and just for the war effort. Kind of like us in the 40s, we were like, well, buy war bonds, that kind of thing. So
yeah, right.
Yeah,
45 minutes. We're done. You happy?
All right. So the next one is on
because I know you got your kids.
Geek on my sleeve, right?
Yes.
Oh, she's right. She's right here. She's
she's.
hanging out.
Let's go.
Yeah.
When are we aiming for?
We've got to read this book. We're starting this one whenever now, aren't we? We're ready to go, I suppose. You said the first. Ramsey's in control. He's the. I'll
probably start it either today or tomorrow. I've got one other book that I'm finishing. I am, as soon as I finish that much.
Okay. President.
I'm going to be done with that. Now I'm listening to the presidential read along on audiobook, so it's not. And if anybody wants to join that, it's going to be fun.
Awesome.
I'll put your Discord in the link if I remember.
Okay.
Yeah. So tentatively aiming for end of the month. We'll get it on the calendar, push it out on our social media, guys. So if you're catching this after the fact, watch our social media for updates on
we usually do them Sundays. So let me pull up a calendar. I can give a more accurate date. Probably looking to be around.
Do we have 31 days in January?
We do, yes.
We do have 31, don't we?
Probably the 24th or the 31st. We'll narrow it down before the end of the month.
Sounds good.
Fabulous.
Perfect. Sounds good. As always, gents, it's been a pleasure.
Ooh, that is a good point. If they're tracking him by the key,
possible.
I hadn't even thought of that. I like that idea. All right, I gotta go, guys. We'll talk later.
Yeah, right. Love you, leave you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Much obliged. Like, comment, all that fun stuff. Subscribe to all these other guys as well.